roll with it today.
Sure.
So I love these new permanent name tags. So hey, everybody on the phone, we are going to finally get started. Thank you for waiting. This is group goal 2 of the Blueprint Subcommittee. Goal 2 Subcommittee. So we are, so just everyone, did we clarify that everyone was actually in the place they wanted to be?
Kind of.
Okay. So this is the goal, access to a diverse mix of food vendors and retailers that consistently provide affordable and nutritious foods.
We've been discussing it.
Okay, we're all in the right place. That's great, because I start off downstairs in the wrong place. Okay, so let's do intros. You want to kick it off?
Hi, I'm Andrew Stricker. I'm with Trailhead. I'm here to support you and
Yay.
any way I can.
Thank you, Andrew.
And why are you also on Zoom, Andrew?
So we can record the meeting.
Okay. Here we go.
That's cool.
Perfect. Hey, and Aubrey, it looks like you're the only one on Zoom. Aubrey, it's Wendy. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yay.
So tell us
Here I am.
about you, Aubrey.
You want to know all about me?
Well, you know, the simple version. Who you are, who you're with.
Yes.
Maybe just a quick, is this your first Blueprint Goal 2-3 meeting, Aubrey?
It is, yeah.
So maybe just a little bit about why you're here in this group.
Sure, yeah. So Aubrey Day, I'm the Healthy Environment Planner at El Paso County Public Health down in Colorado Springs. My main stake in this is that I am partnering to coordinate a sort of a version of a food system assessment down here in Colorado Springs. And one of the sort of key things that keeps coming up in the various elements of our assessment is sort of bringing the food system back to the neighborhood, kind of a neighborhood-based access. And we are about to pilot some ideas in several target neighborhoods down here in the Springs and thinking about what those sort of food purchasing opportunities could be and how that connects to hunger.
Great. Nice to hear your voice, Aubrey.
Same, Wendy.
And actually, just before I forget, you might discuss this at the end, but have you heard about the Blueprint field trip to Colorado Springs?
I have. Kevin reached out yesterday, and so I'll be in touch with him.
Great.
I'm actually really excited about the Alamosa portion of it. I'm thinking about making that drive.
Definitely all those sites are going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Yay. All right, Khalid.
My name's Khalid Morris. I'm with Family Tree Market and I'm working with the Fresh Flow initiative in Montbello.
I'm Elise Lubell, Jeffco Public Health.
Tim Dolan from Chaffa with the Fresh Food Financing Fund.
Becca Boone, I'm with CDE School Nutrition Unit.
And I'm Wendy with Live Well, Colorado. So good morning,
Does everybody
everybody.
need to sign this, everybody?
You get it?
Yep.
So do we write in Aubrey? Do you want that?
Oh,
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, okay. Aubrey is
Okay.
present. Thanks for zooming in with us, Aubrey. And then we're going to be going back down in less than an hour, Aubrey, so I assume you're going to resume in later?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Okay. So let's see, hopefully, bear with me, folks, but hopefully I have this plan right, is that we have until, Andrew, please keep me on track, we have until 11:15.
mm-hmm.
So we have an hour, and at 11:15 we'll go back downstairs and do some sort of, introductions it says, report backs and all that. But in the next hour, we want to kind of work our way through the draft goal 2 and strategy language and start understanding if we're is this in, is it not, do we need to change anything about it, is there anything we're missing? Come back with a proposal, is that right?
Yeah.
Sounds easy. So here's a question for you, Andrew,
Yeah.
or maybe they have this downstairs. Was there any sort of specific process that anyone wanted us to use about our criteria to apply, or just discussion? Okay. So here's my first question. Has anyone had a chance to read this, or would it be helpful to have 5 minutes to read? And the goal has been kind of reworded since last. This is kind of what we worked on and adopted last month, but it's new since then. Yeah, right. Who wants 5 minutes to read this?
I'd like 5 minutes if that's okay.
Is that okay? Okay, Aubrey, we're gonna take a few minutes. Is that all right?
That sounds good.
Okay. Just goal 2.
Right.
Okay. Stop at the bottom of that.
Quick question, do we know if how the goal is stated on the website, the endhungercolorado.org, is up to date?
No, it is not.
Okay. Do you know where I might access the most up-to-date version?
The attachment,
For today's meeting invitation,
Okay,
yeah. Do you have all that, Aubrey?
I think so. Let's see. There's no attachment on my invitation.
Okay, I'm gonna look to see if I can forward it to you right now.
Okay, thanks.
Bill moves.
Who are you?
Canadian Rockies.
Oh.
For 2 weeks. Backcountry. I'm not finding Kevin's email. Isn't that funny? I'm
I've got the
getting
email.
emails from Kevin.
It was sent last Thursday. Last Thursday, 2:42 p.m. If you've got her email address, I can forward it.
Yeah, maybe I'll just give it to you. Sorry, Aubrey, give us a minute.
Okay.
So it's this, Aubrey Day. So here comes Aubrey, from Andrew.
Okay, thanks.
The file is proposed work groups 2-3 strats. It's a Word file.
Yeah, and start with the goal 2 because it is new. And then into the strategy summary. You guys doing? Anyone need more time? Sorry, Aubrey, you might need more time, but I think we're gonna launch. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So, I know we spent like way too much time on the goals last time, but just a real quick note on the goal as it's written. We still need some word like ensure access or something, right? Can't just be access to a diverse, right?
Needs to be a verb in there.
Verb in there, is that
I would say
right?
verb is good.
Okay. I don't know if ensure, we can just give that feedback, right? Like somehow ensure access, okay. And does anyone, does this goal as it's written, does you guys feel pretty good about it? Does it reflect the conversations from the last meeting?
Yeah.
Does it feel clear? Or clearer?
Yeah,
Would you change anything about it?
besides the verb.
Yeah.
Well, we were having a little bit of a philosophical discussion regarding purchasing being the dividing line.
Delineator?
Yeah, and I couldn't figure out what the word was, but yeah,
Yeah.
delineate, that's a great word.
Okay.
Because there's so many hybrid, like when kids, but I'm talking about kids because that's number 5, so I don't
Yeah,
want to get mixed in. But, you know, in a community garden, if you buy your plot,
right,
is that different than if WIC gives you a plot?
right,
So we're not going to say, okay, half the community, no,
right. No, we're not.
no, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. So it works when it works.
It works when it works. Yeah, it does. You're right. You're
fine.
right. It works when it works. And there's some maybe, right. So if there's someone like, if there are, right now there actually aren't a whole lot of strategies around food production, even like community gardens or at any sort of other level in here, which is, I think we came up with the last meeting.
Right,
Seems to be
that's
a
why
huge gap in the actual
That's
blueprint.
why I raised it. I mean, I said that because like, oh, yeah,
Where does it go?
where's it go?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think that to me, that's feedback we give to the governing council. That I don't know,
Yeah.
the way the blueprint is written and structured is not a food systems perspective.
exactly. So that's why I'm struggling because I am coming from that perspective.
Yes, I struggled
So that's fine.
hardcore with this. I mean, because I just, half my work doesn't even fit in here. But, so, just personally, right, I'm like, I don't know where it is. So what do we,
So I think
that
it's,
seems like feedback to the governing council.
Yeah.
Like, if there can be more systems, sort of seed to table, systems level recommendations, it's hard to squeeze them in here because they don't fit into the actual vision or goals as they're written. Hi there.
I was in the wrong group for a little bit.
So was I.
okay.
It's all good. Do you just want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Michelle Ortiz. I'm with the Cultural Wellness and Preschools. We're a nutrition education program based out of the University of Colorado, Rocky Mountain Nutrition Research Center. Mouthful.
The best. So we're just kind of walking through. You have handouts there. We're gonna just dive right in. Basically, we kind of did introductions. You've read them.
But-
Please take time to read them. Yes. Go ahead.
getting back to your
Yes.
comment, I want that to go to the governing
Okay.
council about systems approach
Yes.
and or systems environmental change policy, because a lot of these are very, I would say they're very, take up very programmatic-y.
Yeah.
And some of these really, so I can wait until we get to the 1, 2, 3, 4. The
Yep.
4th one, because I have a question on why it's here and not over in the SNAP and WIC one. Like, are we?
Oh, I can answer
bringing
that
the-
very quickly.
Okay, good.
Okay. So goal number 1 is strictly about enrollment in the programs for individuals.
I mean,
Which goal number 1?
So, sorry, goal number 1 of the blueprint is strictly about enrollment in federal food assistance programs such as
No,
SNAP
that's
and
goal
WIC.
number
no, I thought
Oh,
that
that's
was
right.
4. See, yeah.
I forget the number. I should never go with the numbers.
Okay, so
I will take numbers.
Increase public understanding.
Public understanding.
Public
So, okay.
understanding and
So-
I should never say a number because I'm always gonna get a mark. The goal
Not
of
to be
the one of the 5 blueprint
Correct.
goals that is about
So it's only enrollment.
is strictly about enrollment for
Not
individuals.
about operations.
It's not about food environments. It's not about vendors that would be authorized. It's only about individuals
Okay,
to
then,
enroll.
thank you for clarifying
Because they're
that.
completely different systems.
Oh.
Different entities, different
Right.
systems, different strategies.
This is more related to like double up bucks and getting fresher food at the
Diversifying, as a farmer's market, can you accept WIC? As a corner store, can you accept WIC? As a corner store, can you accept SNAP? What are the stocking requirements?
And
Yeah.
perhaps Erin can speak a little more on that, but in terms of, WIC has its policies and procedures on who's a vendor and
Yes.
what proportion of
Yep.
foods it carries and blah, blah, blah. So it's not like it's necessarily amenable. It would be a policy change for us to lobby WIC state to say, hey,
Yes.
can you change how you,
Can we
and
create
then
new
there
categories
could
and
be the
stocking
feds and a
standards? Yeah.
waiver in USDA, blah, blah, blah.
Totally.
So
There are ample
Okay.
opportunities.
there are ample opportunities.
But I think we'll get into that too, because that's a
Okay.
different
I don't
type
mean
of
to
strategy, right?
Steal the.
Yeah, but you're right, this is definitely not programmatic, right? And there's a, yes, it's a
Exactly.
different kind of strategy. So let's get into that. We get into how we need to organize the strategy so they make sense.
Yeah, I think that's kind of
Okay.
what I'm touching.
Yeah, and I don't know who put in all these questions and the suggested rewording, but I hear
So the question,
This person do that
to
too.
clarify that, when you say rewording, these are more questions to stimulate rewording possibly.
Right,
They're not-
maybe?
These aren't like
No, that's what I took it as. What the original one is I put these into like a Google Doc and sent it to our little subcommittee that was volunteered to kind of reword these. And I just put in here, so just rewording so people can say like, if you don't like it, change it.
Right, no, I think they're good
And
questions, I'm just
I don't
not
know
sure
who
if
put the
the
questions
header
in.
is rewording.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Versus-
It's like, what do you need to address?
Yes.
Okay.
So-
Yes, I agree. And I don't blame people, I hate rewording. So let's get to those, and I don't think it matters. I don't know who put all these questions. They're all great. That we will not answer all of them today.
Right.
Okay, so we feel pretty, the goal is more clear. We feel pretty good about the direction it's giving us. However, we want to give some feedback to the governing council. The 5 goals as are written, we still feel doesn't perhaps incorporate a systems level approach. So there's things like growing your own food, self-sufficiency, community gardening, farming, that just, we don't know where to put those strategies. Am I getting it? Is that fair enough?
I
Okay.
think that's.
And does that mean you document that in the notes? Or like, who does that? Who goes? So we make record, we want to give the governing council feedback. How does that happen?
We'll just do it at the report. Tell them at the
Okay.
report.
Check. And then like Donna will take it back. Oh,
I will tell you right now that the governing council is not in place where they're going to be able to address those issues for a while.
fair enough.
They're probably not gonna add a whole nother.
No,
Right,
absolutely
right.
not.
But maybe
Right.
find a place where we can slip it in or it will
Well, there should be a
be a
section
little more
on.
applicable.
In terms of not unaddressed. Or
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
later, future
Right. We're gonna focus here,
considerations.
not here.
So it doesn't,
Yeah.
parking lots, so it
Yeah.
doesn't get lost.
There you go, bike rack.
I know, I was.
It's easy.
No, we do,
We do this.
but I wasn't gonna. Okay.
So we, but at least so we're on record as giving that, hey, governing
Exactly.
council, we know we have a lot of other things going on. It's not gonna change the loop right now, but
Yeah.
at some point, please address this.
Right.
Okay. Cool enough. Okay, fair enough. So let's just dive into the strategies. So, oh my God, I know this one, the next one, I know we've gone back and forth on wording about, so we want to make sure that it's clear. Because what it was like 2 months ago, I know we were even struggling, like, what are we talking about? Food distribution versus delivery. So we kind of reworded already to increase the consistent distribution of healthy, fresh foods to food vendors. I mean, I don't know if we need and retail, because retail is a food vendor, but fresh foods and food vendors and retail in urban and rural communities. So this, this is a good question. I have something in my mind about what this means, but it's probably a good question to, like, what does this mean to everybody? Does this feel clear? What does this mean to you?
It's kind of supply side versus demand side, so I didn't know if that's what we were intending. And is that where the issue is? See, I don't know enough about production, procurement, distributions, because I don't know much about that. To know, have these folks who do this say that there's not enough, or is it, so I don't know if that's the issue. If it is, that's great.
Didn't this originally come from the first bullet that said,
Yes.
build upon successful statewide delivery systems to increase the amount and access of nutrition, fresh food in communities? I kind of took that as a catch-all, as increase access in various ways, because to me, a delivery system isn't delivery like Amazon delivery system.
Right.
It's how people get the food. Maybe it's through a bricks and mortar grocery store. Maybe it's through, a Denver food rescue type of thing. Maybe it's through, community, food, community supported access or community share
Yeah.
kind of things, those kinds of things. So there's a lot of different things. So I sort of took that as sort of a catch-all. You know,
Originally.
now, you know, what are the different delivery, you know, there's various different delivery systems, there's all kinds of them. So,
Yep.
you know, what are the initiatives that you put in place in order to achieve
To
that?
achieve that. And part of that, we tried, that's why we separated them a bit, I think, right, Tim, in the first and the second there, is to try to bring some clarity, like there's different systems at play here, and to make this first one really about not distribution to individuals, but actually distribution to the vendors, right?
Well,
It's like, can the corner store get quality, consistent, fresh produce? Can the rural grocery store get quality, consistent, fresh produce?
And that's where I sort of landed on the first one after that was this to me, this sounds more like, now it feels more like, you know, how do you incentivize wholesalers to deliver to, I mean, this is just an example.
Yeah.
How do you
yeah.
incentivize a wholesaler to deliver somebody someplace they wouldn't necessarily deliver because it doesn't make economic sense.
Right,
You
exactly.
get that in a lot of
Yes.
rural areas, right?
Yes,
It's like,
yes.
you know, the food truck doesn't go to certain places just because it doesn't make any sense to certain places. So how do you incentivize? Can you incentivize that? And if you can, then how?
Yep. What else are you gonna do? Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, I think when I first read this, I was really thinking about like my corner grocery store, right? Is it gonna
Yeah.
have fresh apples and
Yeah.
whatever, fruits and veggies? But on another note about delivery, I think it's kind of breaking down some of those ideas that people do not deliver out there, and we have to do that with our school districts a lot.
I bet,
Every
yeah.
school district is probably getting a US
Yeah.
Foods truck.
Yep.
There's a highway.
Yep.
When people say, oh, we can't get it, we're just way too rural, we say, well, you can, because there are trucks coming down. Do you ever see a semi coming down
Yes.
into your town? Then
Yep.
you are getting, you should be able to procure those items.
Right. And you know, and I know that in San Luis, like the grocery store there, they, that's the only reason the food truck goes there. And then that store then supplies, you know, some of the convenience stores in the
Right.
big area. You know,
Yeah,
so
yes.
there's a way to leverage, you know,
Absolutely.
There is a way
how do
to
you
leverage
those,
how do you
yes.
leverage how do you leverage what's, you know, what's happening?
Absolutely. How do we get some collective, some aggregation? I think this is where you bring in like food hub work around the state, as well as working with wholesalers and, you know, the US Foods of the world, all of that.
Some of those words
Yeah.
be either included,
Yeah.
or can we use adjectives that it's really more remote vendors or smaller, because it's
Oh,
not
it's-
King
yeah.
Supers.
No,
not
it's like, it might be the
Safeway.
corner store in a certain neighborhood
Well,
in
that to me
Denver.
connotates something different than
All distributors.
I mean, sometimes
Right.
in urban areas, it gets as simple as like, we don't deliver there because there's nowhere to park.
Yeah,
You know,
totally.
it's like, they don't have a loading dock out back, I
Yep.
can't get in the alley,
Okay.
so I don't.
it's-
I kinda,
Yeah.
you guys are looking at it from that side. I
Yeah.
kind of see it on the other side
Yeah.
and feel
As a
like
vendor.
there needs to be for the local farmers, kind of locally, and having that connection from the farm part. It's hard for there's a lot of national distribution
Yep.
groups, and there's a lot actually in Denver.
Yep. Yeah.
But there's just not a lot of great relationships between local farmers
No.
or people that produce locally in various areas of rural Colorado and those distribution networks. So they get their food from God knows where, right?
Mexico.
Right, from all these other crazy
Mexico.
places. So you have a lot of food sources, direct food sources here that don't have distribution
Yep.
chains that can get to, whether it's, you know, those rural grocery stores or even some of the grocery stores.
Or a
here.
corner store or a small
Farmers.
buyer. Yep.
So it'd be
Markets.
great, yeah.
Yes.
I would like to say that.
Yes. Yeah, no, exactly. I was gonna ask, how do we say
No,
that?
but
so this
I'm
is
saying the
clear?
local part, I think the local part starts at that increase, that consistent space,
But maybe we
I
could say
think really
local.
speaks to what does consistent mean to
Yeah.
distribution,
Yeah.
to distributors. And the consistency to me is the local kind of farmers that are here in the state that can consistently provide food that aren't necessarily providing it to our local distributors. So it's a local distribution and it's local production, I think, and that's a gap. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think there's a huge food gap here, but in general, I think there's a local gap.
Do we need, I mean, and we can have as many strategies as we want. Do we have, is that its own strategy? Because that's a very different maybe system is then dealing with, okay, how do we get US Foods to do more,
Right.
you know, a cooperative distribution or
Because
something.
they're not.
They're not gonna- Right, or how do you get Cisco to do more local? I mean, so
It could be
maybe
a
it's its own.
strategy, or it could be its
Yeah.
own. Yeah, no, I don't wanna lose.
Yeah,
I
okay.
don't wanna lose what you're saying. I think it's very vital.
You wanna write that?
And it's a little different.
Well, actually, you know what makes me think, isn't that there's some strong co-op energy
Yeah.
going on, and they're literally trying to do this. That's kind of how, I remember that conference that I went to. There was
The
a
spring
lot.
one, the springs?
Yeah, the one.
Yeah.
Oh, that was an awesome conference.
Right, there's a lot of, I didn't realize how much energy the local manufacturing groups, they were
Have.
trying to do this
So
very
hard
thing.
to
They
get
were
into
working
Denver.
extremely hard. How do we get
Yep.
to where
We
you
want
guys
those
are?
institutional contracts. I mean,
Yep.
so if
Yeah.
there is another strategy, should it be something around leveraging, I don't know, distribution in local food hubs? I mean, is that what we're getting at?
Yeah,
Like that.
yeah.
I like the word leverage.
I do too, I like the-
I like the word local.
Yeah,
Local.
leverage local.
Food
That
hubs
sounds great.
And distribution
But,
networks.
Yeah, but
or-
I don't wanna lose distribution. That's why I think I think you can rework this sentence, but you
Yep.
don't wanna lose the distribution angle, because that's where they're trying to get to, and I think that's still powerful.
I totally agree,
Is
yeah.
you still want distributors,
Yep,
you know?
Yeah, so this is a question. Are we talking about sort of two different methods of distribution? There's the wholesalers, there's the US Foods and such, and then there's, say, the food hubs that are gonna be much more localized, which, you know, from a practical standpoint, maybe have a better chance of moving the needle than kind of telling an affiliated, like, you should do this.
Yeah.
So is that, am I thinking of that right? Am I capturing the conversation right, I guess? Yeah.
I think so.
so then we wanna keep. How do we, is the one above still okay? What do we need to change about that so it can get at that? So we're capturing that it's outside of really supporting and enhancing like local food system distribution networks. There's also gonna be work to do with some of your wholesale distributors. There's a lot of creativity potential. It's really, I mean, if every McDonald's truck that goes into every neighborhood that has corner stores and is carrying fresh little pack is cold storage trucks, could just do this much space for the corner store that's next to every freaking McDonald's, right? This would be fine.
Problem solved.
So, I mean, is this top one like okay to, yeah, how do we frame the top one so I say top because I wrote local underneath it, sorry. Sorry, Tim, I'm doing a horrible job responding to your comment about how we actually say
No,
this.
you're fine, and I
clear.
think just to get the gist of it, because I'm not sure we need to fine tune the language like today, but I think when we say increase the can we make number one more of the, you know, the mainstream kind of thing?
Yes,
For lack of a better term.
right.
So that's increase the consistent distribution by established wholesalers,
Yeah.
like
That's-
affiliated,
That's
you know, et cetera, to leverage, you know, opportunities, urban and rural. And then the second one can be more like food delivery, you know, something that sounds more of like a grassroots kind of thing.
Yeah, building up, supporting the local food systems distribution networks.
Yeah, like a Go Farm, you know, those kinds of things.
Room collective, yep.
Yep.
Yeah, does that, generally the wording not great, does that work for people?
I mean, that's the
Aubrey,
gist.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was just saying, was that the gist? I think.
Yeah,
But I just want to make sure it's not
Creativity.
limited to food delivery. I thought the local food hub.
He broke it up, I think the first part.
yes.
Okay, I
Yes.
just want to make sure
So there's,
we're not conflating in the wrong direction.
right,
Well, I mean, when I said, I guess I'm really thinking more distribution, right? Like, so.
Yes.
Still thinking
Yeah.
distribution.
yes,
Okay.
Yes.
There's just two sides of that.
yep.
Maybe,
But that's what I'm saying. I didn't lump distribution and food delivery.
Yeah, right, yes, no.
yeah.
Because these first two, now are the 1 and 2, seem to be about, are we actually getting the food to the vendors that sell it to people? We're not even talking about individual yet, we're
But I
talking
like
about direct.
established wholesalers and,
Yep.
and like the incubation of the food hub type vendor.
Yep. Perfect.
So it's.
Because they're gonna have really different needs.
Oh,
Yes,
absolutely,
totally.
and the incentives would be totally different.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Audrey, how are we doing? First of all, is this easy enough to follow? Then second of all, do you have additional thoughts?
Yeah, I'm following along, and yeah, I'm good. You can assume that I'm on board unless I chime in. I'll be sure to chime in.
Okay, thank you. Please just interrupt all of us. And then to these, there's a lot of great questions in the suggested rewording column. That's, I would assume would be really good questions for like any strategy. Like there's gonna have to be a process around all of these strategies. You're gonna need to be baseline information, right? Like who needs to do this? There's gonna be a whole process around every strategy. So do we feel like we need to address these questions now, or is this like next steps?
Next steps, build out.
Yeah, I'm liking the momentum we have of just sort of saying, what is the strategy? And we can come up with initiatives and sort of swim lanes later. Yeah,
That'd be good.
that would be my vote.
That's a little overwhelming.
Okay, I didn't want to make sure I was not ignoring these really good questions. And I don't know whoever put these questions in here, we should be like, great. Would you like to take the next step? Looks like you have some great ideas. Flesh it out. But this, I assume, strategy will become an entire action table, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
That's what I said.
Yes. Okay. Once we get all these notes. Okay, great. So moving into the next one is, and I know Tim, we went back and forth on this a while ago, and we wanted to pull this out separately. But the intent now was not like the food distribution system, but there's also a system of actual delivery.
Correct.
To individuals that we wanted to capture. That is, and this is where, I mean, you're talking about, this is like bondadosa. This
That's
is,
exactly what it is.
okay, so this is even like, hey, can you start using your SNAP benefits and mobile delivery that's being piloted, all that whole universe. So
That's right.
does this one as it's written, is that clear to you guys that that's kind of what we're talking about?
I feel a little embarrassed because it sounds like we talked about it, but initially when I read it again, I thought, are we talking about like transit-oriented sites and those kinds of things, like food at transit-oriented sites, like Union Station, those kinds of things. So maybe that's
another one.
Another
That's
thing.
great.
Yes.
But
I see that too.
but
Let's add that.
that's not that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I thought when I read transportation. See, I live in the I do when you do a lot of TOD, then
Oh, yeah,
you think
you're aware of it.
transportation.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But I saw this as more either congregate sites or food, bondadosa type.
Bondadosa, DFR.
Yeah. That's where I was going.
Okay, is that in line with how everyone else is thinking about this? Okay. And are we okay with the wording? Okay. And then, so
Well,
then do we
can
add?
I just,
yeah.
so do we add
Yeah.
and TOD sites?
Yeah, but to me, the third one could be TOD sites.
Isn't that the one we're on?
No, I was
Oh,
on,
the connect
sorry,
community
I was
transportation.
on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was on still food to live, sorry.
No, but that is a good, right, so connect community transportation
That
systems
to
to
me
food
is what
vendors.
Tim is saying is like transit oriented.
Right, but it's also like, when you build a bus path or build a bike lane, do they go to the grocery store?
Well, there's that.
Does
too.
the older,
Well, I think it's
all of
both
those.
and, yeah.
So do your transportation hubs and networks, do your, whatever it's, spokes and wheels, do they integrate food access where they are and ensure actual transit to food access sites?
Yeah,
Right.
and that's more complex than I was thinking. That's more system oriented than I was thinking. I was thinking more like, is there an opportunity to put, a pop-up food market?
Yes, added,
Transit
yes,
transit site?
totally.
That's great.
Like
I know,
Union
I
Station,
did.
Union Station,
Cool.
it's a farmer's market, but
But
it's.
yeah.
it's a
But you're thinking
different-
about larger, like, what about that really huge bus stop on
Yeah, of
Colfax?
course.
You know, like what if
Exactly.
people can pick up some fresh apples on their way to,
Yes.
Some of that is planning oriented
Yep.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and kind of development to development.
Mhm.
There's, I don't know, you might have to create incentives here because,
Yep.
the developer may have a completely different vision that, may not make sense to anyone in the community.
What?
surprising.
For that developer, it makes a ton of
But
sense.
why can't that,
I need a ton of money.
and maybe it
Becomes an
is, but
advocacy.
that to me is a comment, again, for the, what's it called, the advisory?
Governing council.
Governing council, sorry, about making sure it's linked to planning
Yeah.
efforts, that there's a really good connection, because
Well,
that
and
sounds right.
I'm assuming, and because you already brought this up, Lily, I do all the time.
Yeah.
It's like the worst.
I'm not.
So I will clarify that we have a sort of a blank slate here to look at strategies that would maybe implicate a lot of advocacy work, which is, that
Yeah,
would be, this is a, you know?
The advocacy part can be kind of requirements around what are the, like miles. I know,
Yeah.
I'm always looking at, like, you know, I'm thinking about an area, you know, what is the miles? Like, what's the distance between, you know, one, you know, food source or where it's pick up and the next.
Yeah.
So from a food advocacy, you can say, we have these requirements of there needs to be a certain
Yeah.
amount in a certain given area and that sort of thing, and that may directly impact that.
Yep.
But a lot of times for these planning sites, you know, if they're not necessarily in that same, if they're not aligned to that same perspective of this is a TOD site and we really want to have a food hub here, you know, along this path or along this site, you know, if they overlook that, you can't go back in time. And, you know, that's the way it's gonna be for the next like 25, 30 years. You can't change it. It's like, great, this is where it should be.
Yeah.
Well, you missed that boat.
Yep.
So that alignment needs to happen kind of.
Proactive planning.
Yeah, so in terms of advocacy, that really needs to make sure there needs to be requirements around how that, how planners should be thinking about these neighborhoods.
Yeah. Yep. And food access is integrated into one of the things you just think about. So you think
But
about
it's not,
water
but
access
food
and parks
access isn't
access.
really a zoning requirement.
Right.
You don't have like food for,
Yeah.
this has to be a food source, right? It's
Right.
just more about building, it's more about levels, this has to be, this can only do 12 stories or whatever the case may be, but there's no designation for this needs to be a food source here.
So this goal to me, the strategy, is really sort of about like just integration of food access in transportation planning. But it also sounds like we want, am I wrong? Sorry.
No, I think that's,
But it sounds like too that there's two levels here that Tim brought up, though. Some is about just integration literally at transit hubs and parking rides of where people are at, but it's also about ensuring when you have the buses and the bike lanes, where are they going to? Or they're actually connecting to food vendors. Okay. So can we can clarify that, but it's still just one strategy?
Yeah.
Okay. And I know we blasted past the food delivery one, but we were good on that, right?
Yeah, I think,
Okay. So we're good.
I thought we already.
Okay, good.
right,
Okay,
that's where I was like.
Okay, we're fine. Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
So the next one, I know we already had a couple questions on Elise, but increase the number, diversify the type of food vendors that accept SNAP and WIC benefits.
And I can't speak for SNAP, but I can speak for WIC in terms of USDA and how the state interprets and feds and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
So, I mean, I don't know enough on that, how that gets changed.
Ooh, okay, well, there's a whole white paper we wrote that can help you with. So every one of these questions here is actually addressed in the Improving Healthy Food Retail white paper and issue brief that we released this summer.
Should we?
Yay.
Okay.
I can send it to you. We haven't done a great job of promoting it because the we is the Colorado
I
Food System
actually
Advisory
went to
Council
some of those, saw a whole bunch of documents like, oh, I didn't know.
Where does it live?
on a CSU Food Systems website.
Yes.
I see it comes around the USDA newsletter.
Really? That would be amazing.
That would be great.
I feel so cool.
USDA's putting out something.
Oh, yeah, if you could either send it or link it
Absolutely.
or whatever, because, yeah.
Yeah, those questions are already addressed. That work is
Like,
already
great.
really happening.
So we have some serious
Help
baseline info for this one. We should move really quickly on this
Because I
strategy.
know Heidi Hoffman's working on it, so I mean, it's just a matter of.
Yes, and she worked
Yeah.
really closely with us in the whole white paper.
So, yeah, I don't presume to.
But is there any, were you good on the wording on that one?
Yeah. Especially if she says, yes, that's the way to.
Full seal approval from
Yeah,
CDHA
then-
and CDHS.
Yes, let's
Yes.
move on.
So increase the next one, we're on the next page, Aubrey. Increase the availability of nutritious food incentives, good addition, at a wide variety of food vendor sites across the state. So this is probably where like Double Up Food Bucks WIC, Farmers Market Nutrition Program, WIC fruit and veggie
So maybe it's
vouchers, all
incentives
that
for
kind of stuff.
nutritious food, not nutritious food.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Like who's the
Oh, right,
incentive
yeah, yeah,
going?
yeah.
To me, that implies that the incentive is going to a food vendor, which might be the case,
Yes.
or is an incentive for individuals, is it an
Right,
incentive
so
for
I would say-
purchasers?
Yeah, food incentives for new.
Oh my, that's a really good, because what if we want both?
Yeah, well, it could be. We should-
Because
we
think
should-
it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
think about the school incentive bill.
I know, I put little, but then you kind of addressed that, don't you?
Oh, I did, I got it. Oh, okay, so maybe we'll get there, because that's about institutional purchasing. So maybe we address institutional purchasing in a minute, maybe this one really is about individuals. So increasing the availability of incentives for individuals to purchase nutritious foods at a wide
Yeah,
variety.
because that's a different,
Yes.
that's a different
Okay.
strategy, yeah. So-
Okay. And this. Okay. Financial incentives.
Doesn't have to be
Should, yeah, do we wanna,
in, it could be.
Right.
yeah, how do
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't know
know.
if it could be, I don't see it necessarily being financial, it could
Yeah.
be
Right, okay, then
That's
we
what I
can-
mean, it could be.
donated food, or it could be,
Right, well, that's downstairs though.
No, but it could be structural.
There's no person, yeah, it could be, Right.
Yeah.
there could, you're right, there could be
I
other,
don't wanna be
Well, you know,
limited
I
by
think,
thinking.
is it government-supported incentives, or is it,
Right.
could
It
it
could
just
be
be
that.
like more, just the vendor?
yeah,
Exactly, that's what I mean, it could be any of
Like,
those.
for instance, Grow House has a tiered system.
yep, okay, great example, yep. Okay, cool. Other than that, is this good with the language? Okay. Oh yeah, and the one question here was, what does it mean to increase availability? So, now increase the availability of incentives for individuals to purchase nutritious foods. Do we wanna, we just want more incentives. What, how's there a different, are you guys confused by that, increase the
No.
availability?
Yeah.
Just more.
More.
Yeah. And different,
Right,
because it could.
I think if you just say increase the incentives for nutritious food.
Yeah, I do too, that's.
increase incentives for individuals to purchase,
Individual, or for individuals to purchase or vendors to sell.
Yes, that,
or do we wanna deal with the vendors separately though, to Becca's point? Is this really
I feel
about
like-
individual incentives? Like WIC FMMP, like Double Up, like the older adult.
Well, what about like a tiered
Food
food
safety
system or
program.
something like that?
yeah.
Pay as you, that's like pay what you can.
Oh, right,
right,
like where
right.
would that fall? Is that
Right.
the vendor doing it? Oh, right, I see what
is
you're
that the
saying.
vendor doing it? You're right, pay what you can, is that a vendor? I mean,
No,
it's
no.
it's probably more of a win for the individual than the vendor.
Right, it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's not, it has to be some sort of community-based,
Yes.
just like a Grow House to do
Right.
that, but.
I feel
I
like a
still think
lot
that's
of
an
these
incentive.
strategies though are focusing on incentives or access for distributors. So to have a strategy that specifically focuses on individuals might be helpful.
Yeah.
Because I feel like some of that stuff could fall under,
The SNAP and WIC authorization thing.
right.
I mean,
or-
to increase
right,
the number of those who accept SNAP, there should be some serious incentives and support to do that.
Right.
Here's an example.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. If that makes sense.
Yes, as long as when we say SNAP, we really mean nutritious.
Yeah, yeah. Stocking requirements, read the white paper,
I know.
or just talk to me, because I clearly am very intrigued by it.
I'm so far behind.
Oh,
my
Elise, do you know
reading.
what I
even
don't
get
read?
me
I should
started.
never even tell anyone to read anything. I read nothing.
The guilt that I have and the stacks
Oh, the
that I
stack.
have, it's like pathetic. It's
What
so sad.
happened?
I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway.
They should be on
God-
tape.
God bless the executive summary, right?
Yes!
It should be audio text, so.
This one, there is a 4-page issue brief. You don't have to read the 30-page white paper.
No, I'd probably enjoy it.
Very pretty.
Anyway.
Okay, but are we cool with how Becca kind of framed this? This is, and in your example, that is the Grow House, that's still an incentive for an individual to purchase healthy foods, I think, because they're the one getting the economic discount.
It's an incentive for them to go there, sure.
Yeah. That's not like broad framing. Such a good model. So then, okay, next one is expand investment efforts and increase availability of flexible funding and financing for food supply chains and fresh food retail options. So Tim's has gotta be all you. It's all you.
Yeah.
I don't
this
know
is-
what this means. So
Okay,
somebody
take over.
explain.
So this is the fresh food financing fund. I mean, not exclusively that, like CEF does it as well, Colorado Enterprise Fund, other, folks could do this as well, the city does it too. But I think this is just about, aggregating capital in order to be able to finance some of the things that can be financed. Right?
That's how I interpret.
Yeah.
Aubrey, did this one make sense to you when you read it?
Yeah, I mean, coming in without the sort of contextual background makes a difference, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think flexible is like a really important word.
Okay. What are the current efforts and availability? That, we can get some easy baseline on this one too.
Sure.
From the white paper.
No.
No, I love everything
I'll
about
just
the
say
library.
Tim, I know.
Because
From
of,
him.
from
Yeah.
Fresh and Friends. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, some of these are new to me. I
Oh,
did not know all of these.
No, that's really.
All the acronyms.
There's a separate class for the acronyms.
Yes. Why have I never heard that joke before? There's a separate class, I mean, really.
I just made
That's
that. You feel free, it's all yours, one.
But it's true, there should be.
totally true. So integrating nutrition education opportunities where Coloradans access food.
Okay,
That's like
so
huge.
that's huge, and I thought it's bigger than Cooking Matters.
It is.
So I want to make sure we're not,
I mean, it's you, it's what you do. It's,
yeah,
it's
it's huge.
it's IEP,
It's CD, I mean, it's Colorado
it's
Proud.
NAPED,
It's
It's all those
it's
things.
CD, yeah, I mean, it's seeing a little label, right? I mean, to me, that's an educational piece of like, oh, this came from somewhere in Colorado and I can see the farm,
Well, I know that when the Botanical Gardens do their pop-up markets day, I think they have CSU there.
Oh, right, they might have
Maybe
extension
CSU or
agents,
something, yeah.
totally.
Yeah,
It's a
Which- yeah.
lot
I know
of
Food
people.
Bank of the Rockies has
Oh.
yeah.
Cooking Matters at some of their distribution
Yeah.
festivities.
I bet. So this is big.
Mhm.
I mean, it's great, yes. At the corner stores and farmers markets and in King Supers. And we'd love to have a strong presence of nutrition education everywhere.
Yeah.
But, which is what this says. So are we okay with this being like this massive tent?
Yes.
I think so. I mean, I think we get the gist of it. Where it gets down to it is just, what are the initiatives that go along with it?
Exactly.
But that's the tactics of this strategy.
Yes.
Needs to be really well thought
I
out. So
agree.
it covers.
Yes.
Practical execution kind of perspective, this looks more like partner relationships to me.
Right?
Mhm.
Like bringing in people who are maybe already doing
And
this.
people that are already in the
Yeah.
community that,
Yeah.
trying to do that sort of
Yep.
thing, but aren't providing
Yeah.
parts of that.
Yep.
So
But
you
it could be
just-
media campaigns, it could be the foundations. I mean, it could be like any.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, this is so
Any
many, I mean, this is
partners.
what, Karan isn't here today, but this is what Karan does with Ghetto Fresh, right? She's in community. She's not affiliated with like Cooking Matters, but, I mean, there's so many people doing this.
Yeah, so it's just
How
about
do we-
linking, like trying to really get
Right.
at, and not necessarily at a, like you talk like Kings, like at a broad chain kind of space,
Yeah.
but kind of a localized like place, because a lot of these programs exist at a very local kind of level. They service kind of very local groups, so
I think
it's about, since you already know this community, there's a lot of research that goes into nutrition education,
Yeah.
community to community, right? So
Mhm.
it's about
Yes.
connecting the people in a given community that already
Yes.
understand that community from a
Yes.
nutrition perspective into where those nutrition kind of sources are.
And I can also see that expanding to, in terms of diversity, I may not be familiar with food cultures and recipes and traditions and whatever that I might want to learn more. So I could see that having legs, that yes, it may be locally bound, but there's interest community-wide and outside of it. So I mean, I think it could be almost anything, which is exciting. This is good. I mean,
It is
we
good
want
stuff.
people to be excited about food.
I know, right? So how do we, is there a way that, do we want to capture, you just said this so well. Do we want to capture some of that? I mean, that people shorthand this all the time, is like culturally appropriate nutrition education, which I don't think does this at all justice.
No, but that
So, but how do we capture this? 'Cause it seems like maybe it's important to hear that this is not just about oh, blanket nutrition ed, where you at? It's actually about connecting
Right.
to
Yeah, I think
community
it's-
knowledge.
I think
and-
of it as, again, I'm thinking about it from execution, because, you know, this is kind of the heart of kind of some of the stuff
Yeah.
that I'm trying to do. But I think about it more in terms of execution, the way that the current environment is, not necessarily the way things should be.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the way that the current environment is in order to really have great application with this, because I think it's so very important. I think about it more in terms of creating partnerships. So I kind of think about it more from creating partnerships, or I don't know if it's local partnerships or whatever, types of partnerships that make sense between these two groups.
Yep.
Those that are providing the education and those that are
Or,
providing.
or so-called receiving it, right? Or maybe so it's not actually that hierarchical.
Right, but just sort of create, because a lot of times they're really looking for, like, who do I talk to about this? Like, who do I, and then in a lot of our kind of food, environments, a lot of it is a little distributed, so it's not like
Yeah.
these groups have an avenue to connect to the associated, whoever the appropriate manager is, or whoever the appropriate owner is,
Yep.
or whoever the appropriate person is, to kind of make sure that those relationships are there, and there to be some consistency around how that's delivered back to the community, whether it's weekly or whether it's quarterly or monthly or
Yes,
whatever. Because they'd
there's
love to come
actually-
in. I know those groups, I want to be there to help, folks with these
Yeah.
kind of questions.
And long-term. Not just
So maybe
flash
working partnerships
Mhm.
into the strategy
Working
itself, like
partnerships.
Yeah.
using
Integrating
partnership,
community-based.
building on partnerships to integrate
Yeah.
nutrition education, or something, that
Yeah.
piece of really relying on folks that are already doing this work.
Because to me, this is very intersectional and cross-sectional.
Yep.
It's not limited
Yep.
to people on food assistance or
Yep.
whatever.
Or people
It's
only
like-
purchasing
Absolutely.
food, right? It's
Or
happening at
only purchasing.
mobile food banks, it's happening at Metro
It's like-
Caring,
It's
it's happening.
everything.
Right.
I'd like
Agreed.
dissemination.
Yeah, with our Changing Neighborhoods, so I do more of the groundwork and
Yeah.
facilitate workshops with parents on healthy eating, and we get a mix of, all backgrounds and demographics, and everyone takes what they're gonna take out of it without knowing who's who in the room, which is the whole purpose.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So.
It's a perfect example, right? Yeah. It's, so however, will work on the wording, but like, that's the sentiment here. And then, to your point you just brought up, Becca, because we keep getting confused between like goal 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I made it worse or better by drawing these clear delineations, but we are supposed to be focusing on where people are actually purchasing food and like food vendors. And we're assuming that downstairs, they're talking about
Places that,
like food banks and food pantries and nutrition education.
right. So we're talking specifically about nutrition education at,
Right. I mean, they could just take and write the same goal. I mean, it's the same exact
I think
strategy
that's
under
really
each goal.
important. Yes.
Okay, so let's recommend that. Okay, does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, what are we missing? Attendance. Okay, 11 minutes. Okay, so Tim and I already threw in a couple ones that I don't know if mine is worded remotely interestingly, but I added this next one because I wanted something that really got at institutional procurement. I mean, thinking about
Absolutely.
how much of our population are buying food, I'm pointing it back at, being fed critical calories at schools, in hospitals, in government institutions, in whatever. I mean, these are critical points of food purchase. So I want something about.
Isn't,
Well, and
wouldn't food
then,
hubs
and then,
be a mechanism to do that?
yes, can these institutions actually get that supply?
Or- Yeah, because
Yes.
that to me
Yes.
is like getting
Yes.
back to the tactical part of, if there was more, again, I know nothing.
But yeah, no, but
People
how they
talk
engage.
about
Yeah,
it, you know, it's
yeah.
like,
But if you have an entity that really wants to shift their
local
procurement.
people who wanna,
Yeah,
Yes.
this is more, I think this is more of a structural issue at the institutional level, in states and privates.
Yeah.
I mean, because they don't necessarily have, they should, even when they have the infrastructure already in place,
Yeah.
they're still not.
exactly.
And part of that is because of they have this basic relationship with, budgets and, I have to, I'm working with this group and this group provides everything.
I
And they're
know.
keeping it at, so they're not even really managing
So
that
that's
part of it.
almost where relationships are current relationships are kind of stifling
Right.
the competition, whereas.
Right.
Well,
I mean, that sounds harsh.
Maybe not
I
in
know.
schools.
I'm
In
sorry,
schools,
that
they have to
sounds a
procure
little-
very specifically, so they can't use US
I
Foods.
know.
Because they've always used US Foods, but I think we're doing a lot of education
I know, I
around.
didn't mean to sound.
No, it's
I
totally
do think the
fine.
systems are very different.
I think, I think it
Like,
depends on where you
yeah.
are, between hospitals, you know, that are with FSA and then, you know, schools that are
It's
with,
different. It's
you
different.
know,
Hospitals can do
procuring.
whatever the hell they want,
Right,
whereas schools
exactly.
cannot. actually.
And universities
Federal
are
guidelines.
really bound by their contracts.
A little more flexibility in schools. There aren't like federal guidelines saying,
No, I know about the federal guide. I know.
I just,
but that's a good, someone asked this question here that we should address.
yeah, and I think, I don't know, I think this is great. It's very exciting because it relates specifically to House Bill, the new local
Yeah.
incentive purchasing
Yes.
program. So,
But the complexity of it still, I mean, that still relates back in this issue, and that every institution, yes, it's not gonna be the same, but they're all dealing with different challenges. So you almost either, I don't know, can you break that out and just say, institution-wise, you know, I don't know if they're different points, but yes, the school challenges on this are gonna be different than the
Yes.
hospital.
Yes.
You know, which are gonna be different than some of those other places.
It does it all.
Except
It's
when
in your
you're
plan.
using, again, squash. Isn't like squash a squash? And if someone was producing thousands of tons of zucchini and then it went kind of everywhere, squash is squash, right?
are you saying, is that how schools see it or
No.
institutions see it?
Couldn't they see it that way?
No, I don't think they're the
I don't
same.
think they do. I think.
No, I know they don't.
Oh, but could they?
Could they, or, I just got 10,000 tons of squash.
Yes. Out of your garden.
And let's send it to blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
squash is, I'm not talking about chicken nuggets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get that.
I mean, to me, produce is its own category from a food hub perspective. That kind of
Versus
is
sort of like raw
intersectional
meat
versus
or-
raw meat.
I think it would be helpful
So,
maybe in this to
yeah.
put, instead of just fresh, local, nutritious foods,
Yeah.
maybe put Colorado grown, raised, value-added
Right,
products,
because
processed,
you have a
minimally
ton
processed
of
products. So maybe add some more
potatoes,
categories in there that
yeah.
delineate, you know, what, you know, raw produce versus minimally processed versus,
I
you
like
know,
that, because that's where I'm.
whole grain that's.
Exactly, because that's
comes
what I'm thinking, right?
And then do we,
Not to get into.
that again, there's one thing about that focuses institutional procurement really just on local then. Do we want to break this apart the way we did distribution? Is there like a local procurement strategy and then a procurement strategy that's really more on, because there's still a lot of work to do around procurement, just around like fresh, healthy,
I would like to
unprocessed
see
products.
that as a goal, ultimately to get to a place
Yeah.
where it's centralized enough, but also distinct enough for the different needs.
Yeah,
of
so it doesn't matter maybe where it's coming from,
But it's
so we
like,
can do it,
yeah.
Yeah.
Ultimately, like 5
Ultimately.
years from now, what would it look like?
right?
I don't know. Except, because the needs are different, but yet there should be some universality on, we got all these tomatoes, let's
No, I mean, this is
make sauce.
the
I don't
core
know.
of low pro co. I mean, look at back to is culinary training for an unprocessed product,
Yeah.
right?
That's
No matter
what I
where it
thought
comes
the
from,
goal
but it helps. So, do you have? I mean, I think we're kind of getting here. You're the procurement specialist, so. And first of all, does this feel like an okay ad? That one that's focused on institutional purchasing because they provide food to so many people?
To be honest, I think it's like a microcosm of our food system in general.
is,
So
to me.
and it's when we look at institutional purchasing, it has so much power.
Exactly.
I mean, over
Yes.
$86 million are spent in Colorado alone just on school food. Like that's a massive amount
Okay.
of money.
Yeah.
So yes, I think it should be a part of this.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you have any other crafty ideas about how to change it, Becca, I'm looking at procurement specialists, but I wrote down the notes about being more specific about powder grown and raised and minimally processed and processed products. I know we have to head down in like 5 minutes,
Yeah.
but okay, but thumbs up on adding it?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, do you want to talk about yours, Tim?
Sure, I put
Mention
this in
the
here.
R's,
And this
sorry.
really just came out of, you know, some of the work that we've done as well as some of the conversations we've had with the Health Foundation.
Yep.
And it's really about a need to, if we're talking about increasing access, and some of that increase in access is through entrepreneurial vendors or those kinds of things, then, we see a need for technical assistance, whether that be how to secure financing, how to, manage a business, whatever it looks like, as well as things like, for example, the Ute Mountain Tribe in southwestern Colorado needs a feasibility study to see whether or not they can support a grocery store, but they don't have the money to pay for a feasibility study. So, do we finance feasibility studies? Those kinds of things. Ordinarily things like we wouldn't do.
Maybe a little bit out of the scope of what traditionally.
Right.
Yes.
Because there's this,
Yes.
there's this need, bootstrapping it is one thing, but there's also a need for that. But it needs to make sense as well.
Yeah, down. So, anyone opposed?
No, and
Or
I think this is happening, it's also happening again with the new House bill, the technical assistance grant that my office will be distributing to someone to provide technical assistance to farmers and ranchers.
So it could apply for this kind of TA.
Absolutely. So I think this is growing, it's growing and perhaps there needs to be more.
Yeah.
Still not 100% sure what you do, but I will learn at some point.
We do lending and grants.
Okay.
So.
That's not all I do.
Yeah, but that's a primary part.
So, is this, I think probably it is, but I'm thinking of like the Good Food Fund out of Michigan, or is this broad enough, do you think, to provide, when we say seeking to start or grow businesses and increase access to healthy food, we're thinking anywhere across the whole food system, right?
Initially I was thinking it's more in conjunction with, financing or some sort of vehicle. Somebody comes and says, listen, I need some financing for this, I want to expand my store to do this, right? I want to, but I don't know how to, I don't know how to do that. And
what if it's a farmer that's like, I would really like a reefer truck?
But can't we broaden it to like cottage industry
That's what I'm wondering.
and commissary kitchens where it's also job training?
That's not a
for people?
technical, what you're describing is something that's financeable, something that falls into the, expand investment efforts. Right, but it's not technical assistance.
It's not the assessment piece.
Right.
But you can tell a farmer that might need help assessing the financial viability of a crop expansion or diversification to feed their local school.
Yeah.
Could that fall in there?
But is it also like someone who makes salsa, who wants to mass
have a
produce?
business plan.
Yeah, business plan and/or food safety and/or.
Well, I don't think so, because we're talking about increasing access. There's economic development.
So maybe not salsa.
Even with, I think food access is a good house to kind of put some kind of parameters around.
Yeah.
I still think you probably need criteria.
Yeah.
Of some kind, and even that criteria, it doesn't, the more the worse, right? So you want to still limit it within a vein of maybe one of the goals, one of the strategies to say, we'll provide the technical assistance, but that's assuming that this model that you're doing
increases access.
Is in line, not just with increasing access, but in line with another layer, whether that's
maybe
line nutrition,
absolutely.
distribution.
Totally.
That's a great point. Maybe the way to capture that is to say in consideration of the other goals, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And further
That
to the
advance the right.
Whatever.
Yes, that's absolutely, that makes total sense. Yeah. So it could be anywhere maybe along the supply chain, to improve our view. However, it can't just be, a grower wants to shift carrots to make a bunch of money selling to Whole Foods.
Yeah.
It's actually about a grower has a very specific opportunity with the local corner store.
Right.
Or.
But what about with the local labor pools for people getting involved in the food business? Food.
I assume all of these guys are getting involved.
Oh my God.
I'm talking about
But
like job training and/or local people who then make whatever they make.
I know. Oh my God, we think a lot of things about this.
I know, because to me, that's like
actually, what about labor? What about like wages?
Well, there's that.
Across the whole,
there's a whole nother that. This to me was go there. locally grow, the people that want to be farmers, that want to be people
Yeah.
who then make, I don't know.
No, that's
Whatever they make. I'm not sure how to frame it, but
I don't know.
you kind of know what I don't know, it just seems like it's an integral
Yeah, it
part of this whole thing.
It is. The only thing there, I kind of think back, I don't know if Tim was kind of alluding to that, is, but, where in the vein do they fall is more my thought. Not necessarily do they fall here, but where in the vein do they fall?
Yeah, so even if it's the governing council on
Yes, exactly.
the little person.
Yes.
Where does the little person go?
Where is this like not just for the entrepreneur, but for the workers, right?
Yeah.
Where is the support, the training,
Or
the
job
TA,
training
the,
or-
absolutely.
or-
So that whatever new retail storefront is actually highly operational, connected to the community, benefiting the
Exactly.
community.
And
Down with that. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's all part of it, as
Okay.
long as the ultimate project is increasing access.
I agree.
in
I
connection
guess
with retail.
ultimately, absolutely. Okay, good. Okay. We
And
can
that's
take that
also
systems
why I
view.
think that next level is important too, because if it's doing that access and it's in line with one of those strategies, then that's a no-brainer, whether it's on that kind of floor or whether it's a kind of a bigger project, whatever the scale of the project, so long as it's in.
I mean, like, an example might be, a local small grocery store that says, I'm getting killed on utilities.
Yeah. totally.
How do I find a way?
Yeah.
I'd love to find a way
Yeah.
to be able to reduce my utility costs through whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I don't have the money to make it,
Right.
to have an assessment.
Right, figure that out. Yeah.
And if I can't do that, then the grocery store
I'm
goes.
kind of going under.
Right.
Yeah.
That is all,
That's cool.
that's all
a
we're
great
taking,
example.
I mean, I think
Great
I think the big word that doesn't get used in goal 2 that maybe ought to is also retention, because,
Yes.
retention
that
is
is so
important.
true. That is so
Oh,
true.
retention.
Retention. Yeah.
Ensure like permanent access, or some- right?
Yeah, because we know what happens with.
Okay, so we all have, and the 1 minute is gonna take you to walk downstairs, you all need to
Yes.
think about what is missing.
I think it's perfect,
Retention is,
but yeah, let's have retention.
that's a whole nother can of worms.
But that's a really good point, that maybe.
Right, if
I
we
mean,
put all
since
this
the
work
goal is
into
that-
it and they failed and,
Do we take all of this with us?
No.
Okay.
No, they have
Leave
the
this there.
same setup down there.
Aubrey, do you have the information to log into the other Zoom?
I do, thank you.
Okay.
We're moving on.
Okay, see you guys down there.
But I have a
Bye-bye.
serious question though. There are things, I'm sure we're not